Good morning. Welcome at Berlinale Talents. Today, for the industry, the Berlinale Series Market and Conference has just opened, and we are happy also to start this day with a public session on series. And it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Meredith Burkholder, to you.
So much. Ooh, hello. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to bring out our panelists, first and foremost. We have Julia Penner, the head writer from the German series Druck. Julia? And Sander Stockman, also from Druck. And last we have Ronja Salmi from Finland here joining us today. So, please join us. You all have your own fancy microphone. So we'll just start off today. As you all know, we're going to talk about writing for teenage series specifically. How do we connect to teenage audiences? And we have three very knowledgeable panelists here to tell us about their own experience. So first, I think we start off, if you guys could just introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about the projects that you're working on.
Okay, hi. So nice, so many people here. My name is Julia Penner. I'm part of a writers collective named Schreibkollektiv Q3. I'm the head writer together with Sandra Stöckmann of the teenage series Druck, which is the German adaptation of Scum. I don't know if you know about it. And yeah, I'm a screenwriter and happy to be here with you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sandra. As Julia said, we're together in a writers collective, and I think that there are two other writers here, and who wrote with us together the third and fourth season of Druck, and yeah, we are working on the next season, and yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Ronja Salmi. I'm a screenwriter from Finland, and I'm here to talk about two web series, short form, that I've made to teenage audiences. One is Instagram stories, drama series called Karma, and the other one is chat fiction called Girl Squad, and we're going to see some clips about them today. And I'm also a journalist. I have my own documentary series in Finland that I'm hosting, and then I'm head of program in Helsinki Book Fair, which is the biggest literature event in the Nordics. So working on different fields at the moment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So I think we dive right into kind of an overall topic, being how are you connecting with teenagers' audience? I think from a first standpoint, is this about mimicking teenagers themselves, or is it about being like their idols that they see on TV maybe? Or what are your strategies around just kind of the starting point of how to connect with a teenage audience?
I think there's a balance between first of all, Druck works a lot with authenticity. So behind the series stands a lot of research. We go to schools, we ask them questions. There's a lot research behind it. And then there's the point of how they see themselves on screen, but also representation. Especially season 3 and 4 was really about seeing people you normally don't see on screen, especially in Germany. We had a love interest in season 3, which you're going to see later, who was a transgender boy. And we also had in season 4 a main character who's a Muslim girl with a hijab. So I think for me, it really was also about representation, also minorities on screen.
Yeah, I think it's also about identification, so that you can, it's not like, for us, it wasn't like creating a cool person or cool, I don't know, it's more like, okay, I can see myself on screen, because I think that what would have been what I wanted when I was like 15, 16, to see and feel, okay, I'm not alone with my feelings, I'm not alone with my problems. It's okay, it's out there, there are other people about it.
I think doing this web series for teenagers, it just came from personal interest to do something that I would also like to watch and also like to consume online. When we did the Instagram stories drama, I was 25 when we started writing and producing, and at the moment I thought that the content that was, at least in Finland, in Instagram stories wasn't really interesting, and I came up with an idea of like doing a drama series where all of my friends were already spending all of their time, and I wanted to make something that would be funny and adventurous to them as well. And with chat fiction, the idea behind this is just that all of our life drama is actually happening on your phone screen, and I think all of us have had arguments and we've fallen in love via texting each other. So making real life drama a fictional version is, I think, a cool idea, and we wanted to explore that. And those were kind of like the starting points for both of the web series.
Yeah, and it's very refreshing to hear, because I don't know about, when I was growing up, it felt like you're just looking at perfect, perfect teenagers on TV, and nothing that was really authentic to me or my experience, especially when you're talking about representation. It's really refreshing, I think, and great for our younger audiences.
Yeah, and I think it's also representation in like all directions.
Yeah.
Also like that you have really a cast which is not like totally absolutely beautiful, but I don't know, have like skin which is not that like polished and everything. So
Yeah. On this topic, I think we should start to see the things that you guys have made, so our audience can get a better idea of what it is we're talking about. I think we start with the clip from Karma that we have.
Yeah.
Do you want to set us up a little bit about what we're seeing there?
Yeah, it's a short trailer about the series, so you just get an idea of what we actually made. I think the most important thing to understand is that we were filming inside Instagram. So the device that we were using was an iPhone and the application itself. So we were filming inside the app, which meant that we had no post-production. So while we were filming, then we actually put it out there on the same day. So it was kind of even a play that was recorded via an iPhone. So, but we'll see the clip and you understand a bit more.
Yeah. Can we see the clip for Karma?
Yeah, that was us. So it's dealing about cyberbullying and what it means to be friends in Instagram and what it can do to you. But yeah, because we were able to shoot it live, we actually made the audience, because they were watching it live as well, they were a part of the actual series. We had like live meetings in the center of Helsinki, and we drove a legal taxi where the customers were our viewers, actually. They were able to book us to be the cab driver for the night. And then they came a part of the series as well. So it's this kind of a, not like crowd searching or crowd made series, because the audience was not writing it, but they had a chance of performing in the series as well. So when we had a party in the drama, we actually held a party in the center of Helsinki where people could come and join. So yeah,
super cool.
It was a horrible production to be a producer of with so many moving elements, but of course we had fun and it turned out to be well.
Absolutely, it's worth the pain on your end, I think.
Yeah, a lot of things happening at the same time.
And so then, along those lines, we could see some bits of the dialogue that they have there in the Instagram series, and how they're talking with one another. And specifically, you see words like, "Oh, she's saying nice boobs" or something. And the translation, how are you using, obviously, or I don't know, how many people are understanding Finnish? Ah, we got two. But your word selection there, as far as what kind of words you were using, what kind of slang, how did those come about, or did you have tough decisions to make on spots like that?
Well, me and my co-writer Veera Ojola, we both were, even at the time when we were writing, quite young, so that kind of helped because our target audience was around the same age as we were. So I think we were quite able to know which words to use and which words not to use. But then we made the actors comment quite a lot. We had rehearsals because we had to rehearse before we actually shoot everything, because then we had to do it in one day. So in rehearsals, we gave the actors the opportunity many times to correct the things that we had written. And then we also shared the script with some of 13-year-old and 14-year-old girls, just to check what they think about it. So we did use the target audience, but yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that we made it in Instagram, and that's already a decision based on the fact that the target audience is going to be young and they are in Instagram. So for us, for example, using the selfie mode was part of using the language that we're using, because, well, in the National Broadcasting Company that was commissioning this series, they were freaking out about the fact that we are using selfie mode. They were like, no, you cannot do that. In drama, you're breaking the wall, and it's gonna be so painful to watch. No one wants to see those kind of actors watching to the camera. And then we had to fight back and say that this is the way that kids use Instagram. We cannot do this the other way, because it will look like the girls are spying on each other. Nobody uses Instagram in a way that they shoot each other. They shoot their own faces. So picking this angle, for example, was part of the the language discussion that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then I think this is kind of a question that you both deal with. But then when you say that you get on set and in rehearsals rather, that you really rely on the actors to kind of feedback on what sounds right and what doesn't. How far would you say the script is from what ends up in the final takes? How much change is there that comes from the actors?
Well, I think the situation always stays the same, and I think actually, it's quite near on the script. What we do is, what's really great at Druk is we have workshops with the actors. Before we write. Yeah, before we start writing the scripts, and we can see, does this dynamic between those two characters work? Do we have to adjust, for example? And then we write, and then we have a rehearsal where they read, and then, for example, they say, this word sounds kind of strange, I would say it differently, or they can add stuff. And so I think we really try to listen to the actors, to observe it, and also write towards them, because as they are really young and most of them don't have that much experience, it's good to really write on their skin, let's say. I don't know if you can say that in English, but...
Yeah, and I think then we have the script, and I think most of the scenes are based on the script, but then you have also the director on set who can just improvise with the cast on the scenes as well. And actually, it kind of sometimes depends on the scene. And there are some mostly this group scenes when you have this kind of dynamic between 5 young actors making fun, and sometimes it's really funny. So then you have some extra parts in the series.
Yeah, absolutely, this makes sense. I mean, this is the authenticity. Yeah. And what about you, Rania? Do you feel like the things change very far between your initial script and how it comes out?
I think the biggest changes that we made were done in the rehearsals, when we were checking how this actually is going to be. Are we going to be able to just shoot it? That was the biggest question mark on the first season. Are we going to able to actually make it done in this just really short days? But I think if I would do this right now, like again, we've done 2 seasons, so basically 2 weekends, 3 days and 3 days, and I would leave even more room to the actors. I think we wrote too much. I think we were in the end too strict, and just trying to fit actually too much information in like too short amount of time. Because when I'm watching it now, I feel like, oh, we should have just like be more relaxed, way more relaxed. So I think it's a learning process for me as well. So yeah, in the future I would allow the actors to be involved even more.
Wow. Yeah, so it's about crafting a scene for them in a situation, and the
Yes.
language comes a lot from the characters. I think particularly in Druk, obviously, you're bringing up some really sensitive and hot topics that teenagers are dealing with that are difficult to talk about in terms of race and sex and sexuality. We have actually maybe we should see a clip first of one of these sensitive scenes. Do you want to set us up for it for the season 3 clip we'll see?
Yeah, should I say? Yeah. So, okay, you're gonna see now a clip from season 3, and you always have like one protagonist. We only have his perspective, and the protagonist is called Matteo, and he is gay. He has his coming out, but it turns out his love interest is transgender. And we're gonna see now a scene where they talk about how it is to be trans and how it is to have a relationship with someone like that. And the interesting part about this, I'm going to say that before, because we wanted to shoot in the script before, in the season arc, we wanted to write the scene and then they're having sex, because we thought, okay, they have to talk about it and then they're happy. But when we were into writing the scripts, because it's like the end of the season, I was like, when I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy that they're finally together, that I understood when I wrote through the character, man, they're just gonna make love and then they're gonna talk about the other shit. And in the end, that's what matters. I mean, when you're in love, body parts don't matter that much, actually. And that was a really strong experience for me as well. And yeah, but let's just dive in.
Wow, so this is such a sweet scene, and really, really well done. And I think, you know, first and foremost, not first and foremost actually, but to get the conversation starting, is that, you know, I think writing for a transgender boy in this case, especially as cis people, it's difficult to speak about or write for a transgender character at any age, particularly as a teenager. This is so much more sensitive even. How did you even begin to tackle this subject?
Research.
Yeah.
And maybe we could say that this idea also came from the audience.
Yeah.
So we were contacted after the 2nd season. Yes, and then we actually talked to him.
And that was a relief.
Yeah, it was a relief, because before we were like in the writers' room and talking about it. Can we do it as cis people? Can we like create a real character? And then we talked to him, and it was such a great talk, and it was so, because it was so easy to talk, and we could make like stupid mistakes, and it was great, and it was really that I felt, okay, after this talk, I felt, okay, we have to do it. Before it was a little bit, oh, can we manage it? But afterwards it was great. Yeah, and then we searched for the actor, and it was like, it was sure that we needed a transgender actor who is transgender himself. So maybe you will talk about this.
Yeah, what Sandra said, I think, first of all, when we talked with the guy who did the petition of representation of a trans character, he's trans himself, and he gave us kind of the permission. And I think nowadays we think like, what can I write when I'm not trans, when I'm not this and that. And I think for me, and I think for us, the answer is research, and to be open about it. And first of all, Noah is called the guy, the trans boy who did the petition, and Lukas von Horbat-Chewski is the actor, and he helped us so much because, for example, some of the sentences which are in the series, like he Googled his symptoms, this came from him. Of course, wow, this is a telephone. Well, of course, we not wrote down his story, and this was on purpose because, of course, he wanted to perform a role and not his own life. And I think this really, really, really helped. But I have to admit, when the series aired, and this last 3 seasons were about the trans storyline episodes, we were like dying. I mean, we were like, because we watched the clips live, we were like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And at one point, the audience flipped out because
maybe one thing, because that's maybe interesting about a drug, because the season isn't like aired in one episode, but in like little clips the whole week, so that you see, you don't know when the next clip comes, and this is maybe important, so you know you can go on.
Yeah, so first of all, everything was great, and then there was this one clip when the character you see gets bullied, and I mean the audience, they went nuts. They were like, those fucking writers, I want them to go on the electric chair, what they do to our favorite character. It was like, after that, we were really gentle with the writers of Game of Thrones when they fucked up that season. It was because it was like in the same time. It was like, oh my God.
It was 1 week hate, I think.
And it was our hell week.
And, and it was like, you have the comments on YouTube, you have the comments on Instagram, you have the comments also on Tumblr and on Reddit, and they are talking, and
Yeah, and it's also it's beautiful, but also weird because we have the audience is so huge, and you have reaction videos from Australia or from the US who react to an episode. And I think in terms of representation, what's sometimes tough is because if you have a trans character, this trans character has to represent everything, and you cannot make it good for everyone. And it was good that we always could talk to Lukas, the actor, and he said, I mean, come on, I mean, we're doing it, everything's going to be calm, everything's going to be okay. But I think also in terms of broadcasting, that broadcaster, just because we have one trans character, doesn't mean, okay, now we did check, list is done. We have to see more and more representation, that it becomes normal and not like, wow, the exception.
Yeah, that it become, okay, there are more stories. You can live like this, like this, like this. So.
Yes.
Back to authenticity and real life for these teenagers. For Rania, you're tackling some difficult conversations. I know, especially in the show that you're hosting now, in speaking to teens about sensitive subjects. Is your approach much different, or how do you bring these things in front of your audiences?
Yeah, the non-fictional series that I have, we're gonna have the 3rd season coming out in a month, and we have dealt with subjects like mental health, suicide, different kind of drugs, sexuality, gender, basically all of the taboos that there are for a young person to live in Finland. And I'm hosting with my personality, and I think the only option is to be as straight, as honest as you can be. And sometimes it actually requires me to be honest about my experiences. So I have found out that sometimes it helps because I'm interviewing real people that I find from Instagram. My Instagram community helps me to find different stories and different people. So that project is kind of done together with the audience as well. So for them, it's really important that sometimes I share my experiences as well. It's kind of a trade that we're in. For example, on the third season, we're gonna have an episode about eating disorders, and I'm gonna tell my story, my experiences about that subject. Of course, we also have like episodes about drugs. I'm not using drugs in the show. I'm not sharing all of my experiences, which is good for everybody, I think. But in some cases, I think it is necessary to be really honest, to get the audience feel that we are on the same level. And the biggest goal that we have in the series is to make people feel less lonely. And I think this is something that Scum originally is also all about, like showing people that there are other people like you are not alone. And when we are deciding on a subject, we always ask in the team, is this something that someone feels that they are alone with? If it is a subject like that, then we have to do an episode about it. And this is the feedback that I also personally get. People are like sending their experiences to me, sharing their life stories, and that's part of I think, the best thing that there is in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you both referenced doing a lot of research to kind of understand how kids are understanding these subjects. Is it very far from what you would think as your own experience? I mean, I guess you're quite close in age, Rania, and a lot of your experiences that you're working with. Is there such a gap, I guess, for both of you between what you assume that teenagers are talking about and how they are, and what really is happening?
For me, it was because now we are researching for the next season, and we interviewed like a lot of people and talked to them. And what was really interesting is that they, I think, want to talk about problems. I don't know. We talked to them like 1 hour, 4 or 5 people, and we talked about a lot of stuff, school, parents, and we had quite some really heavy stuff they talked about in school with parents, everything. And so I think that they're really, this was interesting for me, that they want to talk about I think in a kind of, it felt like they hadn't the place out there to talk about it. So, and this is maybe I think why drug also is like, they're interested in it, because it is about deep feelings, about problems, about everything. And one thing what was interesting was that, like, we all think in a way they always are with their smartphone, but actually when we talked to them, they were not. So they said, yeah, we have to learn the whole day. We are learning, studying. So yeah, this was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not what you would think. But Vanya, do you find much difference, or do you think it's pretty organic how kids are looking at these things?
I think I'm constantly surprised, kind of about the same thing that you were describing, how much people want to open up, that we are in this stage of sharing our intimate things and thoughts. And I feel that the younger the person that I meet, the more open this person will be about everything, about their sex life, about their hopes and dreams and the traumas that they've possibly gone through. And this is surprising, and this is also sometimes very hard to get through to the broadcaster, to make them understand, because they are usually in their 50s or 60s. And to make them, for example, realize that we have to do an episode about being transgender. I have that in my non-fictional series. I had to fight for it for 3 years, because they were saying that it's a minority subject and it's not interesting, like people will not be like caring about it. And it's like, no, this is the thing that I've been asked the most to do, and it's getting embarrassing to say online that no, there's not going to be an episode about it, because there's no, like, I cannot defend this decision because I think it's important and the audience feels it's important. But of course, like, yeah, sometimes you have to wait for the commissioner to be kind of ready for something. And luckily, usually they are ready for many things, but with this particular topic, I had to wait for a couple of years for it to get through. So I think the younger generation is way more open and way more liberal that we can, that I personally have been when I was in that age. And sometimes I'm also wrong. For example, with birth control, we had an episode about it, and when we were planning it, I was thinking like, this is boring. Like this is not interesting. Like, I don't think we should do an episode. But I just posted in Instagram stories like, hey, does anyone have any bad experiences about like using hormones as a birth control? And I got 800 messages in like 24 hours, and I had to say like, stop sending me messages. I cannot answer you all. And everyone was interested, and that became one of the most popular episodes. And I was like ditching it because I thought like, I've tried it, didn't work out, like boring subject. But then like some subjects for a teenager, they just stay. Like birth control is something that they have to go through. Sexuality, something they have to go through. First crush, first breakup, parents, like those are the things that actually stay and keep on being relevant. You just have to find the new angle for it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's these things that aren't, there's so much that's new to us that we didn't maybe deal with when we were in high school, that you think those are the interesting topics, but there's still all of the struggles that, that any of us have had for years. And so, in addition to research, you have a writing partner, Vanya, and the Druk team is Druk is written by a writer's room. So we have two different ways to tackle this. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you're writing for these teenagers as a group of two, and then as a bigger group. So maybe Rania, or actually, let's start with the with the Druk team. How did you find it to be really collecting all of these voices you have in the room? Did you have too many cooks in the kitchen ever, or were you happy to have all of these voices to craft these characters?
I think first of all we are in a very special position because we are part of a writers collective. We are 7 writers, and 4 of them are in the writers' room. 2 of them are here also, Jonas Lind and Jasmina Wiesolowski. And I think what's important is that you have 1 or 2, for example, now Sandra and me share the position of the head writer, that the producer, who's also here, has 1 person to talk to and not 4 persons, and someone who organizes the writer's room. What I think is great about a writer's room is exactly that you have different voices, and every writer has a specialty. For example, oh yeah, you can come up with so great ideas, they are so out there, I would never come up with that, or you are great with that female character, or you are good with suspense, or is there enough suspense, or is there enough meat on the season? And so I think of course, sometimes you fight also about ideas, but in the end, it's, I don't know, like being in a band. I mean, if you want to have a great song, you need more than 1 instrument. So,
and I think it's also that what you said about opening up yourself. I think in the 3rd season we talked a lot about sex and a lot about love, and so we opened up to each other, which was very important, I think. And last month in January we worked on the 5th season, and we knew us before, but now we know us another bit better. I know it's.
You really get close to these.
Yeah, it's a therapy also. It's a therapy band.
It's a therapy band.
Everyone should have a therapy band, I think. Sounds really good. I would like to buy the record as well. But
it's going to be trending.
But yeah, Karma, that we saw a clip, and the chat fiction that we're going to see a clip quite soon. I was writing with one of my best friends, actually, Veera Ojola, and for some people I think it would be a risk to be writing or just working with one of your best friends, but we had really strict limits of this, like what's working time and what's friend time, and do not message the other about business in WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is personal, and like these kind of rules.
That's cool.
Yeah, like do not Instagram direct me about the meeting that we have tomorrow. Like send me memes there, and then we have Slack and Gmail for other things. Yeah, so that helps. But yeah, working with a partner, I think especially with Karma, something that was never done before. When we tried it, when we started writing, we actually weren't sure would this thing work. Like we were heading to the unknown, and the most important thing, well, trust for sure. There cannot be creativity without trust, and then we shared the same experience about Instagram. It's our favorite app. We spent a lot of our free time in there, and we know the unwritten rules about the application. And we didn't want to direct the series because we are not directors and we are not good at it. But it turned out that there would be no other person who could kind of come along and do it in Instagram, because first of all, no director wanted to work in Instagram. They thought it was shit to do vertical videos and selfie. It's just like breaking all the rules of doing fiction. So we ended up like doing it on ourselves, and that for the writing was actually good because there was no post-production. So basically when we were writing, we were also already thinking about the pictures and where we would be, like the production side, and then like editing while we are writing, because once again, no post-production. So the things that we wrote, we shot, we also published like it was. So everything had to happen at the same time. So with two people, I think we were able to keep up what the other one is trying to plan, and yeah, we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, you were a lean, mean team going.
Yes, we were heavily involved with everything.
Fantastic. Well, you had just mentioned Girl Squad, the chat fiction series that we've actually mentioned a couple of times now. So maybe let's have a look at that, and we can talk a bit more about texting and how teenagers are using this.
Yeah, we're going to see a short clip actually from the middle of the first episode, just that you guys get a glimpse of what is actually chat fiction and what it can do.
So this is obviously a super innovative way to tell stories that we're just seeing kind of more and more recently in the last couple of years. This is an entirely different challenge, or is it not? I don't know. You tell us. Is it really knowing what it's like inside of these carefully guarded phones of our teenagers?
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Yeah, I think it's it's completely fictional. So I wrote it together with Veera Ojola, and it's a story about three girls in a girl squad, like WhatsApp group, and then all the drama that happens in their phones. And I think it's super funny. Every time I show this clip, people love taking the screenshot and asking help from a friend, because that is something that we all do, and we all been there. And for me, it's really fascinating that nowadays this younger generation Z is using social media in these actually hidden platforms, like these kind of groups that we cannot see. Like my parents and my grandmother, for example, is using Facebook in a worldwide audience, like not taking care of privacy, but these younger kids are really private aware, I think, and using WhatsApp. So how to write something like this? For me, even though it's a video format, it's actually closer to literature, I think, because you don't get to see anyone, you don't hear the voices, there's no videos involved, And we tried that. Like we did a demo where we would like send selfies, and we would have like possibly actors playing the characters in the pictures. But then we thought that it's kind of breaking the illusion, and it's more fun that you don't know what these people look like. So then you just have the dialogue, and you have to be able to create the character by just the way of writing, like how do they write. So we decided for each girl there would be like specific grammar mistakes, because everyone makes ones, and emojis that they would use, and some people write really long messages, they think through what they want to write, and others just, like the main character, that the point of view that we are seeing, is sending like short messages and quite quickly. So these kind of styles, we wanted to make sure that they were different. So that would be like the tone of voice for each character.
Yeah, and as far as the decision to just use text and text messages, I mean, clearly this makes for an interesting something to watch. But is this also how you find that they communicate? Are they sending, voice messages back and forth in WhatsApp as well, or is this this is actually the main communication method?
In this series, it is the main communication. They're just sending texts. But in the future, like, I think there could be voice message. There could be like Spotify. You could play music, like the main character having a heartbreak, going to Spotify, picking up Justin Bieber song, going back to see someone's Instagram profile. Like, you can do a whole movie just by using this platform, in my opinion. But we wanted to just keep in the text mode. We were exploring this thing for the first time, so yeah, it kind of actually felt safe to keep it simple and keep it in texting. But in the future, of course, you could use all these different methods. It's really cheap as well to do something like this, so go on and try it. And I think via this format, you can also give a voice to someone who is not usually speaking. Like, you could have a chat with your periods, or like with your vagina, or with God, or whatever. Like, it could be basically anything. And I've used this format in non-fictional things as well. I've had anonymous interviews in Instagram using this platform, because you can just record the WhatsApp discussion that you're having. For example, someone who wants to stay anonymous.
Yeah. Super interesting. And then from the joke perspective, you're dealing much more with the kids in real life, or the teenagers, I should say, specifically. But you're dealing with them in real life. And as you'd noted before, that, we think that they live on their phones all the time, but maybe they're not spending so much time there. How do you deal with bringing chats into your scenes?
Yeah, I mean, we had the clip,
or maybe
right?
we should watch a clip
start
first.
with
Sorry.
the
Trying to set it up ourselves, but no. We have a clip where we're using some text in a scene, so we'll see how that's treated and maybe speak
it's
about
from
it.
the fourth season about Amira, a Muslim girl falling in love.
So personally, I love this scene. I love you really feel the anxiety and also the love and excitement or infatuation. How and why did you choose, or how did you choose, to talk about how this over text, or how obviously they need to meet up at some point. This is a rite of passage that teenagers text one another. How do you craft those first awkward conversations?
I think it's just, I think this is kind of not so much youth or teenage, it's like universal in a way. Then you're nervous, there's somebody you don't know and you want to see him, but you're not like, I can't tell him that at the first thing, so what do I do? Then you're nervous. And what I really like about this texting is normally you have these conversations between two persons, like two actors, or maybe they talk to a friend, or maybe, I don't know, but normally they don't talk to themselves. But in a way, now she's alone, but she's also talking to somebody. So it's really great that you can see what she's feeling and what she's writing, and that it's sometimes different. So.
Yeah, and I think also in this particular season we had the challenge that we had to tell a love story without the love couple ever kissing or even holding hands, because that was like not possible. So in the research we understood as well that texting is a really big part of flirting in the Muslim community. There's also a clip where they're like 5 minutes and you just see them texting, sending songs forwards. He even sends her a voice message, singing to her an Arabic song, very offbeat. And I think because in Germany, teenagers use a lot of voice messages, and I agree with what you said. It really helps to, you can do so much with it and create so much intimacy, because normally when you have a scene face to face, people hide their feelings, but when you see them alone and you see them, oh my God, they blush, but then they send the message and you can see their private moment and also getting in contact. But one thing I want to say about the phones, because in our recent research we had like 20,000 teenagers answering our questions, and it turned out that teenagers not hanging all day on their phone. It's just not true. They're using the phone more in the evening, because at least the 20,000 teenagers who answered our like Fragebogen, I don't know how to say it in English, questionnaire, they are under a lot of pressure from school. So they are not on their phone all day long, which is a prejudice I think we all have in our head. Maybe it's more the parents that use their phones more than the teenagers, I don't know.
Well, the parents just projecting their vices on their children. And so along this topic of our kids on the phones, where are they also consuming the content, and are you writing differently for these platforms? So Druk, for example, this is found on YouTube primarily. This is where kids are going for it. Obviously in Karma, they're going to Instagram.
In Druk, we have also like this Instagram channels and WhatsApp channels.
Got it. So then when you're writing for each platform where the scenes are being consumed, do you write differently, or do you take this into consideration as how you're doing it? Or can you let us know a bit about the process there?
A lot of research on Instagram for me. Just when we were thinking about like writing the Instagram parts, and what kind of language are they using, I actually went on Instagram and researching how youth is writing.
Yeah, but first of all, the rule in Druk is that the normal episodes have to work without the Instagram channels, because every character in our Druk universe has kind of an Insta channel, so and WhatsApp groups, so you can tell some stuff like, because you always have just one perspective in the season of the main character. You don't see, for example, their best friend alone. You always have to see the main character. So in WhatsApp and Insta, you can see how the other characters are developing, which is great. But for writing, I think we have a very good social media team as well. We write the first draft and they adapt it a bit. And I think there's a lot of research and discussions, for example, how to name the WhatsApp groups. For example, when we did the WhatsApp group for the Boy Squad, it was a long way. And in the end, the younger brother of one of our writers in the writers' room finally had the idea to name them OK Cool. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, you're laughing, man, it was hard.
That's so interesting, and also a great use of your writer's room, that you have so many.
Just take it all.
Yeah, and what about from your perspective, Anya?
Yeah, it does differ a lot. I think when you're writing something that is going to be aired on social media platform, to me, honestly, content is 50% and the way that is distributed is 50%. Because nowadays when there's so much content out there that if you are not thinking about how people are going to experience it, at the same time when you're writing the actual content, it's gonna be shit in the end, like honestly. And the traditional way of doing, at least in the places that I've worked with, is that we do something amazing, we spend a year in doing something, and then we have like 1 month of marketing meetings and trying to figure out like how should we distribute this. And that's too late, to be honest. I think these discussions should start at the same day when you starting to write the project. When we are doing things to teenagers, the way of consuming is part of the whole series. So yes, you have to take these things into consideration. For example, with Karma, because it was distributed in Instagram stories, it meant that all the content would disappear in 24 hours. So we made something that was gone the next day. So you had to make sure that the plot was easy enough to follow in that period of time, and we wanted to make sure that if someone would find the series on the second day, which meant that the first content was already gone, they were able to hop along. But for the third day, we just thought that, okay, we're not gonna care anymore. If someone is coming in now, they're gonna be lost. There's no way that we can help them anymore. So it was kind of like first come, first serve of a deal. And this was part of the like whole writing process of thinking of how can we make this an event that people want to take part through social media. Like we have to market this in a way that it's like a festival that is happening online in Instagram, and you have to be there to able to experience it.
I totally agree, and what's interesting is when we started with our first season, I think I underestimated the real time, because in our series, in our universe, it's like when we publish, when we distribute, for example, the 1st of April, it's the 1st of April and it's 3 o'clock midday, for example. And this is how we pretend it is, to create this feeling of authenticity. But this also means sometimes you think when you write it, oh, it's not going to be so hardcore, or it's not going to make such an impact. But because of the real time, it really because it's an event, it's an experience. People get so involved with the characters, and also with this is happening now. You really have to keep that in mind. What does that mean? This is what my experience,
yes,
what our experience was.
Yeah, because I think then the audience will feel that they actually were part of making it as well, because they were there when it happened. So it's kind of a war story that they get to tell. Yeah. Like we were part of something and it happened to all of us at the same time. And we know that the young generation doesn't watch linear television at the same way anymore. But these events are happening online, and if you are able to create an event, then I think you will be able to succeed as well, and give this feeling of ownership even to the audience.
And community.
Yes, definitely.
Because it's also like, I mean, the comments under YouTube, then reaction videos, it's all like a big schwarm, how you say that?
Swarm.
Like
yeah, so this has been super interesting to hear about how you've created these things. And I think one thing we've pulled out, or many things we've pulled out, are that a lot of this surrounds authenticity and really connecting with the teenagers, viewers that are watching, and creating something that they can see themselves in and be a part of. And so you've had so much experience up until now. Where do you see entertainment for teenagers going from here? Do you think, I think we're really in the middle of this really nice, authentic place for a lot of content right now. How do you think this evolves? Are there other topics that will come into focus? Are there more other platforms you want to focus more heavily on moving forward? How do you see things evolving in the next years?
Well, I think for me there's a difference between content for teenagers or content where I see teenagers in, because I think nowadays it's super in vogue, teenage series. And I mean, we also have in Druk Reddit groups which are called escapee moms because they're watching Druk. I see at the moment a trend, because the world is so youth obsessed, that for me it's no surprise that teenage series are really like on trend. So I think this will go on further, but it depends which audience it's going to be. And I think for teenagers, personally, I think in the end content wins and the story, and if it's truthful, it just wins. If you feel there's something truthful about it, it always will connect with the audience. That's what I think.
Excellent point.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think we will continue to see this vast land of content being in different places, and in that huge universe of content, I think you have to find something original, like you said, an original point of view, something that we haven't seen before, to be able to grasp the attention of people. And that's something I'm aiming to do, finding something that has never been told before. And for example, using the Instagram community on finding real stories about real people is one way of doing it. And I think I'm going to continue to get my audience involved in the process of making content. But then, personally, I'm gonna write a book next, which is not like the hippest thing to do, I think. but like I said, I've done web series that disappear in 24 hours. I think it's good for my mental health to do something that will be there for a longer time. So, like personally, I think to be able to hold on to your creativity and to your motivation, I think it's super important to also think about like ways of doing that's good for you. Like, of course, it's important to do things and tackle subjects that are important to the community. And I think I do have a responsibility as a person to bring light to subjects that are not being discussed enough, but also take care of myself and do something that is good for me. And writing a book is going to be good for me because it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to train my mental capacity, and it will be there after 24 hours. So that will help as well.
And will it also be for a younger audience?
Huh?
Will it also be for teenagers?
I think it's for adults, but I know that my viewers, the people who kind of follow the things that I do, are from 13 to 45. Like the audience that is watching my shows, like you said, like people are interested in different ages about the subjects that are relevant to young people. So I think I'm just gonna write a good story, and then hopefully a lot of people will enjoy it. Not it to be about age. I think it's sometimes really dangerous to talk about like we are doing this for teenagers, because no one is talking like, okay, we are doing this for elderly people. Like no one is doing content for
but we should.
Yep.
Maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
This was the feedback we got from Druk, that there were older people telling, why aren't there stories like this?
Yeah, about them.
About them,
Yes.
about us tell, like, we also have deep problems and have stories to be told. Please tell drug for seniors, please.
That would be wonderful. See them texting and and everything.
Yeah, they text a lot.
Yeah, they do. Use a lot of
time.
and use a lot of Facebook as well. Yeah, that could be fun. But like, I think also great content. Scum is the perfect example about great content that was originally made for some target group, and then it just took all of our hearts away. And I have friends who are in their 50s and 60s, and they're like huge fans of Scum, and they are also aware of all these adaptations made worldwide. So I think that's the beauty of storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything to add? Very good. So I think I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions. Just so you know, there's a ball, it's microphones, so don't be afraid of it when it's flying through.
Hi, thank you so much for all of that. It was really insightful. I wanted to ask about the adaptation process from Scum. How much is retained, how much is fresh material, and where the balance is, or how that process was for you guys?
I think in the 2 seasons we did, it was always like, okay, it's a coming out story in season 3, but for example, the love interest in the original has a mental health problem. He's bipolar. So in changing that, and because it's so character driven, actually it changed everything. Some scenes we kept, but we changed a lot of the structure because when does the character tells what really changed. And also in season 4, I think Norway I think Germany and especially Berlin has a different way of living. The Muslim and community is more integrated, I think. So some stuff they did in Norway, I think in Germany they wouldn't do. And also in season 4, we didn't have the school anymore. So that changed also a lot.
Yeah, I think the first season we weren't writing, it was Alexander Lind, but they kept like a lot. And then in season 4, it was like very, very different from dialogues, character lines, and even structure, because we added some, like 3 episodes who weren't there from other perspectives.
But we didn't have any scripts from the original or anything. Because I think they don't exist in English, because also what you saw in the clips, it's not made by us, it's made by the fans. When
the subtitles.
The subtitles, they just, when they come up, and within minutes, they get subtitled by the fans, put on Tumblr or whatever platform they use, yeah.
That's amazing. And the research process that you spoke about in engaging with the 200,000 people who did the questionnaire.
No, 20,000.
20,000 people who did the questionnaire, sorry. Was that difficult? How did you approach that? Did you find it hard to get that feedback, or were people shouting to be heard?
When we did the questionnaire, we were talking together with the producers, and we were like, okay, maybe like 1,000 people would be nice, and we were like, oh, it will take them 15-20 minutes, maybe it's too long. And yeah, then after I think the first day we had I don't know how many answers, and I think they also everybody wanted to add something, and we used our old channel, our WhatsApp channel, Telegram channel, where we sent the question out, so we had like a big base where they can answer.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another one here?
Hello. Also, also thank you. I want to follow up directly from that. In the questionnaire, like, what kind of just for an idea, like, what kind of questions do you put there so it doesn't feel for the respondents, so it doesn't feel like, okay, this is another thing that I have to do, and someone, do you know what I mean?
No.
Okay, what kind of questions do you put on the questionnaire so it doesn't feel like when you get it, okay, this is another test that I need to fill out for school?
Yeah, but you know what? I think what was interesting also when we went to school, because we came into school and we were like, we are the writers, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh my God, we have to talk about to warm them up. But actually, they weren't interested at all in us.
Okay.
They're interested of being heard.
Okay.
And I think because they know Druk as a brand, they know like, wow, this is the series where my problems are gonna be taken seriously. So that's why I think it's not, they don't feel like it's schoolwork. They feel like I'm taken seriously.
And have influence. Maybe I can really say something and then it will be talked about.
Okay, thanks.
Another question here, just on the, toss it on down. Thanks.
Hi, it's not actually a question, but there's a show in Australia called, it's a really stupid name, called Content, which is the world's first comedy series that's set on a mobile phone. So what you're talking about before, going from, her Facebook, she's FaceTiming friends, she's going to a Spotify, she's ordering Uber Eats, but the whole thing is just set, on a phone. And there's a lot of really great interviews and stuff with the people who made the show, talking about that process and the scripting process and whatnot. So yeah, it's hard to Google because it's called Content. But
Content comedy.
if you look for Content vertical series, ABC TV.
Wonderful. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, and also I have a cameo as
Perfect.
as the social media. The lead character is a wannabe influencer.
Oh.
And I'm her mother.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
But anyway, it's a great show, and it was really fantastic production process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Wonderful. Yeah, when we were doing the Karma, we couldn't find any examples, but then when it was published, then actually things started to pop up. Other people are doing Instagram stories, dramas as well, comedy, and I've seen a horror show as well, which is kind of cool, with a phone, and a horror thing. That's quite exciting. And I'm actually now working on a documentary, like a mini documentary that's going to be aired in Instagram as well. So there are a lot of possibilities with the application.
Yeah, cool.
Another question there and there.
Just a short one. How did you find your initial base for airing on Instagram so that you could spread out?
The initial base, with Karma, we made sure that everyone who was involved making Karma was active in Instagram. We didn't set like a limit that you get to be an actor if you have like 1,000 followers or something. No, but we wanted to make sure that everyone who were acting or taking photos or whatever, they would have an account. Like they would know how the application actually works. We had a casting where some of the actors were like, yeah, I'm not on social media, I have no idea how to shoot myself, and this is really weird to hold the camera and speak to it. And then it would be like a pass for us because we wanted them to be like fluent with it. So before we aired Karma, we just made like a package of material. We didn't have a trailer because we didn't have anything shot. So we made pictures, and then we wrote down in the tone of voice of Karma, like a message. Then we just asked the whole crew to send it out, like post it in Instagram, tell people that it's coming, and then before the show aired, we had already thousands of followers ready, like waiting for it to start, and they had no idea what they were waiting for, but they was there anyway, so that helped. And with the chat fiction, it was actually aired on a profile that is owned by a Finnish girls magazine, like a really traditional magazine, but they just have an Insta account. So they already had a following base, but we were able to bring like in 2 weeks maybe 7,000 followers or something, just like coming along just to see the series. But yeah, having a base helps definitely.
Super cool. We have another. Toss it on over.
Hello, first of all, thank you for sharing your work. It was very inspiring. I was wondering, because Druk has is like an adaptation format, and with your series, are you interested in more the translating and I mean, to translate your format or to have like adaptations from your format, because you encouraged other filmmakers to try them out and everything. But I feel like the story is interesting, so wouldn't you be interested in translating it into other languages?
Yeah, with Karma, there is a format made by the National Broadcasting Company that was the commissioner for this. So if you want to buy it, it's possible. You can do your own. With Girl Squad, I think we've been just too busy to translate it and get it done, to be honest. Like I said all of my titles here, I do a lot of work and my company is kind of tiny, so I think we haven't prioritized that, but I think it should be done. But there's so much chat fiction online if you go and try to look for it. So I think it's already happening, and yeah, maybe we should translate it, get it out there to everyone to understand and to enjoy. But other than that, I think chat fiction is kind of lost in a way that it's just a way of making content nowadays, and anyone can take control of it. So yeah, go out and try. Like if you have an iPhone and a MacBook, you can do this. Like it's simple as that. And I think it's also a great format of doing content between series. Like you could have traditional series and seasons of series, and just have chat fiction in between.
Yes, we did that as well.
Yeah.
We had like 6 Black Weeks, and we did we pretended that our two protagonists were doing a road trip, and we just told that through chats and Insta stories, and people were really scared that that our couple got lost in Madrid.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Super interesting. Any other questions? Oh, we got one way in the back. It's a big throw.
Thanks for all the questions. Wonderful.
Thank you for this fantastic presentation. I'm a script writer, but it was, I must admit, completely new to me, this format, so I'm very glad and inspired. I would like to ask you about your casting process. Actually, both of you, although I think the Finnish series is maybe like, I think you talked a little bit about it, but you always say actors, and to me they look very young, and they also looked non-actors. So could you tell a little bit about both parties? How did you make the casting, and what were preferences, and did you work with amateurs or with professionals?
Yeah, the girls are young, but one of the main characters that we have in Karma, it has won like the Finnish Oscar for like for the main role. Like she's a known actor in Finland. We went to same school with her, so I just casted her by calling her and asking nicely. And then actually, because it's 3 girls and it's a vertical phone, so they have to be really close to one another. So, and we were in a rush. So I actually asked her, who do you want to work with? Like, we need 2 other girls. Do you have any suggestions? Like, we thought about, like, maybe if we cast people who are already friends with one another, they will perform a group quite fast. So, yeah, so that was actually our initial idea, and we were able to cast 2 girls in like really fast. The one who's professional actor, a friend of hers who's also acting and is professional. And then we had an open casting call where we just tried to find like a person that would match and balance these 2 people that we already found.
Yeah, I think in Druk, for the first 2 seasons, for the first seasons they casted half a year, so it was really intense casting process, and I think it's always a mixture between newcomers and on the other hand young actors who already have a bit of experience, and it's really, I think that's why the workshops are so important. We always have them between working to really write for the actors and see at what point of their abilities are they at the moment. And yeah, and I'm really happy that we as writers are really involved in the casting process as well, because we really have to fit the roles towards the people we cast.
And it happened also that we had like the idea, and then we got the cast, and we had the workshop, and then afterwards we started to change parts of the dialogue because it didn't match well anymore, because we see like the two actors, the relationship between them, and it was different than we imagined before. So we could change it, which is really, really great when you know the actors before you write.
Yeah, and we also try to really put an eye on diversity in the cast. So sometimes, even though we had great contenders, but we really want to have like a colorful cast.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're almost out of time here. Thank you so much for being here, and if you could each just remind us where we can find your work or more information about you, if you could tell everybody, that would be great.
This might surprise you, but you can find me on Instagram. Yeah, Ronja Salmi. So find me on Instagram and you will probably see all my work there.
Yeah, we have the Drug YouTube channel where you obviously can watch still Drug without the Insta and WhatsApp content, so you can't watch it live anymore, but you can see it, and it's not only 24 hours. So
lucky you.
Yes. And you can also check out Schreibkollektiv Q3, which is our writers collective, and yeah, you can find us on Insta. We have a homepage. We also use old people platforms like Facebook, and yeah, you're welcome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.